is going on, YouTube universe? My name is Trent. Some of you guys at home might know me as Zirra from other content that I throw out into the YouTube universe, and welcome to the Hip and Shoulder, the channel where we discuss everything Australian rules football. Am I speeding things up? Am I a bit excited? Can you tell I can't contain my fucking hype? Round 1 kicks off tonight. Richmond versus Carlton. T-minus just under 3.5 hours from the time of this video being recorded, going off of the timer that I see up in the top corner there. With us being so close to kick-off tonight for round 1, I think it's pivotal that I show you my final Supercoach team, given that my final Supercoach team has 11 players only from the initial team reveal that I did back in my previous Supercoach video. So yeah, we've got some big changes to go down. There is many reasons why, but here are the 11 that have managed to survive the culling. Harry Sheezel at D1, I think, speaks volumes for himself. If you're not starting Sheezel, you are missing out on huge output. I still feel this guy goes 120 most weeks. He's moved into a midfield, more centric role, which allows him to get more of the pill. I know that, you know, historically, he's been more of a half-back, getting some easier kicks, kind of, you know, being that link-up man, but I still feel he pumps out huge numbers, and you'd be amiss to start him. I've got Harry Perryman currently locked in at my D5, and I don't see him probably averaging anything more than 90, but he's going to score points for us. He's going to generate cash. You could either flip him early, given his price point. He only needs to make about 150k for you to be looking at an upgrade to a, you know, not just a defensive premium player, but by the time DPPs roll around, if he's still been getting all those midfield minutes, he'll get midfield eligibility, and you can even swap him for a midfield primo, which would be huge. You could also look at on the flip side, you could potentially keep a player like Perryman as a D7 as a backup for if anybody goes down with injury. Minus injury himself, you know he's going to play every week for Collingwood, so very handy to have in very, you know, different situations. My midfield, Clayton Oliver. I think it speaks volumes. Everyone's going with Clayton this year, and deservingly so. He's gotten back to his best, some would argue maybe career best form. I don't ever remember seeing Clayton Oliver with a six-pack, but he's rocking one, and I think he can go 100, 110 this year as an average. I really do. There might be some games where he's kind of a little bit lower down the spectrum, but I think he's one we need to persist with. And again, I believe Clayton Oliver, we're not picking him as somebody to flip. Clayton Oliver is genuinely someone that we can keep all year long and have some faith in, because I think he's going to return that faith. Rookies in the midfield, very hard to come by, especially with the news that I have just heard surrounding Levi Ashcroft. Levi Ashcroft has been named to debut this week, however he is a sub-risk, so I don't know whether starting Levi is the right option, and I might actually tentatively not select him. Maybe for the purpose of this video we'll keep him in, but I don't know. I've got to have a look at it before the first bounce for Brisbane, because if he's going to be the starting sub, I don't want to be starting him in my team. That's just, it's just very upsetting to hear that, because I think he's got tremendous and immense amounts of talent. You don't sub-vest somebody with that much talent, but I do have Levi in the team. Sam Lawler was out, but he's back in again. He got that fractured jaw against West Coast in one of those earlier preseason games, but he's back and firing, in and under, tackling hard. I think he's really moved forward past that injury, and I think he's going to score rather well. And again, barring injury, should play most games this year. So I'm really looking forward tonight to seeing how he goes. Finn O'Sullivan, a lot of people questioning the pick. He's playing an outside wing role, also moving back to half-back flank, being that kind of defensive manoeuvrer of the football, similar to what we've seen from Zach Fisher, similar to what we have seen from Harry Sheezel in the past. And we know notoriously when players move back to that position at North Melbourne, they score well. So I'm very comfortable at locking Finn O'Sullivan in. On the bench, we have Mitch Nevitt. Now, he probably won't be scoring as high as some other rookies that are around his price point, but I feel at least on the bench, he gives us a solid option for cash generation. And in case that we do have a player like a Levi Ashcroft that is going to be a sub-risk, we know Nevitt's going to maybe play out a full game if he's not subbed out. So we get a little bit of leeway there as well. In my forward line, probably most teams have this starting three. Horn Francis, Jack McRae, Caleb Daniel. I think you're crazy to start, you know, none of these guys. And I've seen some teams that have some of these guys out of it, and I think they're nuts. I think the only way you can justify not having a Jason Horne-Francis is if you're running somebody like an Isaac Rankin, but even then, with Connor Rozee having some doubts around maybe whether he's not going to play this week, with Zach Butters out injured, opens up the door for Horne-Francis to get more permanent midfield time, and he's going to, notch up a lot of the ball, considering Butters isn't there to do so. So, skip on that guy at your own behest. For the rest of my forward line, it is just rookies. We're going with Davidson from the Bulldogs, who has been confirmed to debut this week. He looked absolutely incredible in the preseason practice match, and with no Bontempelli, no Adam Treloar, no Ed Richards, this guy's going to get plenty of the pill, especially coming up against North Melbourne this week. Isaac Kako on the bench very much could be an on-field option, but I'm still a little bit weary because he only scored 90 points off of a 4-goal haul in their preseason game. You take away those 4 goals, he's only scoring you about 50 points. So, can we trust him as a starting option? I'm not sure. Definitely a lock for the bench for cash generation, though. And Elijah Hewitt on my bench. We can pivot him to the midfield bench if we wanted to, but again, it's all about cash generation. I feel more grounded in maybe selecting him as a starting rookie on the field, only because he'll be playing midfield time for West Coast, especially with the likes of Dom Sheed and Elliot Yeo missing. But it's just about seeing whether he gets up or not, because we know he's had some injuries over the preseason. That right there, they're the 11 that made the cut, and we can kind of maneuver them in different ways and see how things work moving forward. But I justified a spot for each of these guys, and I'm happy to keep each of these guys as is. As for the few that you're about to see thrown into the mix, I have arm wrestled with these selections for weeks, and I do want to say, majority of these picks, minus maybe 1 or 2, were in my team heading into round 0, so I don't want people thinking that I've been reactive and I've made changes accordingly due to those reactions. One of those is probably a reactive pick, but I did have that player kind of on my radar. I just decided, yeah, we've got to go with it instead of kind of going against the grain a little bit early. We're going to start with defense. I did have Dane Zorko originally as my D2. However, I have decided to roll with Jordan Clark. Fremantle have an incredibly buy-friendly fixture, and I think early on, getting Fremantle players in, especially players at the caliber of Jordan Clark in the defensive line, is going to be critical. He's a player that we're going to keep all year. He is a player that can consistently bang out 100-plus scores, and I am very comfortable in thinking that, with Fremantle's defensive structure and how they operate, this guy's going to get plenty of the ball. He's a safe selection for me, and he's a safe selection in the fact that you're going to get quality for the money that you're paying for him. We now drop down to the mid-priced area, because we are going to be rocking another 2 mid-prices around the marks of Jordan Clark and Harry Perryman. The first of which, we did have Trent Rivers for a period of time. However, I have chosen to go against him. And the player that I have opted to bring in, maybe a little bit reactively, but as I said, he was on my radar during the preseason, is Lockie Ash from GWS. He has been starved of opportunity at times. He has also had injury-riddled seasons that have prevented him from going big. But Lockie Ash, I feel, could be a reincarnation of Lockie Whitfield and then some. Just that half-back role that is very suitable for the Orange Tsunami. A lot of run and carry, a lot of chipping the ball around to set up. I think this guy can average pretty big. I'm not at all suggesting he's going to be a keeper, but at his price point, with the money that he could be making us and the scores that he could be churning out, especially if GWS are going to have a solid year, I can't look past him. I'm more comfortable now looking at Lockie Ash over a Trent Rivers, and knowing that I think we're going to be more grounded in this selection. Trent Rivers is still very much a unknown commodity. We don't know whether he's going to get midfield time, whether Christian Petrarca coming back in forces him permanently back into defence. A Joel Frazier, for example, with Bailey Dale coming back into the Bulldogs. Can we trust a cheaper option in Frazier, or do we go and put a little bit more money into the bank and make sure that we get someone like Ash that can get us a 90 to 100 to 110, each week? I'm very happy with this pick. The final pick wouldn't surprise many. It was one that I'm probably perplexing myself a little bit over the fact that I didn't start with early and ummed and ahed about whether I would, but Matt Roberts looked just too clean in that defensive 6 for Sydney last week to not go with. Very composed with the ball, loves to kick, and he is very damaging by foot. And he'll be a top swan this year, not just in Supercoach, but I think he'll go very well in their best and fairest. He is a player that has been on the cusp of really breaking out, and that is what my team this year is going to be based around. A lot of mid-prices that I feel are going to break out and have huge years. I think Lockie Ash for GWS is going to go big. Matt Roberts for Sydney is going to go big. That rounds out my mid-prices for the defensive line. It is now just time for rookies, and I've landed on 3. I don't know how I'm feeling about this man right here, but I'm going to type his name in. We are going with Ben Patton at D6. Now, he scored 67. He looks to be more of an intercepting key defender, but he did a lot of rebounding work. I don't know whether, if the experiment with Tom McCartan fails in the forward half for Sydney, whether he goes back and then that impacts Ben Patton's position and role. But I, again, trust in Patton more over somebody like a Leak from GWS, who might not play a similar role when players like Stringer and Hogan come back into that forward mix. I don't know whether they can throw Leak back, given how strong GWS's defensive 6 is. Probably my least gut feel with all the rookies that I've selected about being able to have some good job security, but we're going with him because he looked good out there, his role looked suitable, and to get 67 as a key defender, he's going to make money for us. And at the end of the day, I'm happy to flip him early if he's going to make cash early for us. It's all about cash generation, people. That's what the game's all about, and that's what I'm aiming to do with all of my rookies this year. In the past, I've always had some vice-captain loopholes in the way of choosing some players that aren't going to play so I can swap and switch. But I'm going this year with a full bench of rookies who I feel are going to get game time each week. So we can get that money, we can get those trades going, we can get the upgrades going. I'm hoping this year it's just not breakout year for some of the players I'm selecting, but a breakout year for myself as well. For the bench, 2 players. They've been in my team. Well, one of them's been in my team since the beginning, and that is Zach Reed from Essendon. I think, again, just like Patton, he plays a good role. He's playing that intercept defender. Intercept marks are going to get him a lot of points. He doesn't have to average much, just needs to average enough to get us some money. The second bench player I'm bringing in is Luke Trainer from Richmond. Now, a lot of people are umming and ahhing with this pick, suggesting that they're not sure about his job security, but I will confirm something. With Richmond's lineup, it looks like Luke Trainer is going to be given the Dan Rioli role of running off halfback along with Tom Brown. Sam Banks had been training for that role all season. He has been named to run off a wing. We have other players who have been training in that role that are now playing numerous positions as well. It looks like they've landed on Luke Trainer. I don't know whether that is going to change moving forward, but I'm excited about this because he has the aerobic capacity to do this role very well. He has a great tank. He is great by foot. He's got a great set of hands. He's got some speed. I'm willing to back him in. Midfield, kicking it off on... Actually, let's go from the rookies, because I think it's easier to pick the rookies. Now, I didn't have this player in until his announcement of debuting this week. I'm going with Lucas Camporelli from Carlton. Looks to be playing a wing central role, especially with Ollie Hollands moving back to halfback flank. He's essentially been handed the keys to the kingdom and told that he's going to dominate that side of the ground. And if they're doing something for that of a player of the Camporelli name, I'm happy to back him in. Especially when Camporelli is getting a game with Carlton's full midfield in swing. Patrick Cripps, Sam Walsh, Adam Chera, all playing. He goes on one wing, whoever plays on the other wing plays on the other wing, but with the changes that they've made to their defensive structure with Newman going out, Lucas Camporelli could be a blessing in disguise for many of us, especially if you're looking to start a rookie around the 113k mark. The other rookie that I had on the bench, it was Hugh Boxall. Could be a risky choice, but over the preseason, this kid has impressed a lot of St Kilda names internally and externally, and in the practice game was one of their better scorers. And St Kilda are a team that are going to be playing a lot of youth because we have players injured, injury clouds. It's going to be interesting to see how St Kilda operate. I'm going to be going with a couple of St Kilda rookies, in a sense, going off of price. You'll understand in a minute. But Boxall, I think, is one that if he's named, you can comfortably put on the bench and he's going to get some cash generation for us. It's just, I don't know how long he's going to potentially be in that team for, because we don't know who's going to make way for the likes of Mateus Philippou, for example, when he comes back from injury. But Boxall has impressed me over the preseason. I'm willing to roll the dice. If he doesn't play, we just bring in another playing rookie. With those out of the way, we have 2 premium midfielders to come in, and we have 2 mid-priced rookies to come in. And we're going off the top of the rank. I originally had the team of Nick Dacos and Marcus Bontempelli, rather. Bontempelli obviously out for up to 6 weeks, and we're not taking him. We're going with Lachie Neale. Brisbane's fixture early is incredibly soft, and he is a great vice-captain option for us to start the year. We know he is going to go huge against the lower teams. You know we can put faith in this guy. There might be some weeks where he drops and gives us an 80 to a 90, but most weeks you're going to get 100 to 110 plus. And I'm comfortable, again, Lachie Neale is a selection. He's going to be in my M8 by the end of the year. So why not spend a little bit of money now to bring him in, knowing that the softer fixture is going to afford him some easier points. In M2, I'm going with Andrew Brayshaw. Again, similarly to Jordan Clark, Fremantle have a very soft kind of run up until the buys, because they don't have any of those buys interfering. So if you're wanting to dodge bullets with those buys, interfering with your team, Fremantle has a very buy-friendly fixture. And Andrew Brayshaw, I feel, still goes severely underrated, considering everybody talks about the uprising of Caleb Sarong. Nobody's really paying much mind to Andrew Brayshaw, and I think Andrew Brayshaw this year is going to really put his stamp on the competition. Very comfortable going with him in M2. Again, a selection that's going to be in my M8 by the end of the year. Lock him up early. Normally, I've gone into selection not paying much mind to buys, especially there's early buys that are created because of the fucking round 0 debacle, but I've really started to pay attention now to make sure I've got players to maneuver around. And again, if Fremantle have a lineup and a fixture that is going to negate those buys perfectly well, I urge you all to really consider looking at Fremantle players in certain roles. The mid-prices I have been jumping around with. I mean, I had Will Day at some parts, and I feel that's too reactive to go with Will Day, because he's not going to kick 3 goals every week. He's not going to get, as many tackles as he laid every week. I still feel Will Day has a lot of question marks around him. I don't know whether we can fully trust him because he's coming off of injuries and whatnot. Josh Dacos is one that I would have loved to have brought in, because he will end up getting mid-defensive DPP, and he'd be the perfect kind of M6 to bring in, but we could probably do so later depending on how he fares. The first mid-pricer in the midfield that I'm going to bring in, I feel he's a non-negotiable. We bring in Adam Cerra. Playing Richmond tonight, he is going to go bananas. He'll score 100 points comfortably. He is in a confirmed mix-up in the midfield with Patrick Cripps and with Sam Walsh, so there's no question marks about job security. It is all about staying fit. He's had a really good preseason. He only needs to average 90 odd points to 100 points. He's going to generate enough cash for us to flip early at 447k. Only needs to make us 100k before we look at somebody around the price point of a Christian Petrarca. So do the math. The final one I'm bringing in, some of you are probably going to say, oh, that's reactive, but no, I'm going with Finn Callaghan. He was one that I had in, then I had out, then I had in, then I had out. I really feel this was going to be a year for Callaghan to break out. I loved his work at the back end of last year with all the tackling numbers that he was generating, and I thought to myself, if he can string 20 plus disposals a game and get his 5 to 10 tackles that he was consistently getting, he's going to score incredibly well in 2025. Back-to-back games, albeit a practice match prior, but he has come out and I think he scored close enough to 120, if not broke it in that practice game, and then he's come out and gotten 144. Comfortably can back him over a Will Day, because Will Day, we don't know what role he's going to play. He played midfield, he played forward. Does he get tagged? He's probably the person to get tagged straight up. Whereas for GWS, Finn Callaghan, you're looking at somebody like a Josh Kelly or a Tom Green that's going to pick up a tag first. Even maybe a Caniglio, getting older but can still do some damage. Similarly with Adam Cerra, Patrick Cripps is going to get the number 1 tag most of the time. If not, it's going to be Sam Walsh. They're not going to be tagging Cerra, so I'm comfortable with those picks. My ruck line is completely blank. For my rookie, I am still going with Boyd from St Kilda, because I feel that Rowan Marshall is going to play more forward this year because there is a lack of Tim Membry. King is out injured. So they're going to have to play Rowan Marshall forward at least this week. So Boyd comes in as that secondary swap out for a forward ruck option. There are some other players around this price point we can look at. Thomas Sims was one I was hoping would get a game, but he didn't get named this week for Richmond, which is a little bit disappointing. But we had from West Coast, Archer Reed has been confirmed to be getting his debut this week, so looking at him could be a potential option. Liam Reedy will play this week, given the fact that Sean Darcy is probably 4 to 5 weeks away. So if you're looking at somebody with a little bit more security, an Archer Reed or a Liam Reedy probably the way to go. But at this point in time, I'm looking at Harry Boyd. If he's not named, I bring in Archer Reed. That's my decision that I'm making there. I had Tristan Cherry as my R1, and I talked him up so much, but I flipped to Max Gawn. Max Gawn up against GWS this week with no Kieran Briggs going up against Lockie Keefe. This could be a 150, 160 Supercoach game out of Gawn, and I'm slapping the captaincy on him and not looking back. He is going to do damage, and ultimately, at the end of the day, the motto is in Gawn we trust, and Gawn has really never let us down as a ruck Supercoach option. He is the most expensive ruckman for a reason. I am happy to lock him up, and I have a game plan when it comes to ruckman and the flex, which I'm going to discuss in a minute. But my R2 is Toby Nankervis, 3% owned, huge pod. I feel he's going to average 110 this year, and a lot of people laughed that off, and I said, I feel this week against Carlton, up against De Koning, he is going to score 120 plus in Supercoach, and I got laughed off the field. Nankervis is a ruckman who wins his own contest, gets clearances, lays tackles, gets defensive marks. He is a player that does it all. I think he's going to be a top 4 ruckman this year, and I'm happy to lock him up knowing the strategy I have moving into this year with the flex. I'm going to move to the flex before I fill out my forward line, because my flex is easy. I'm going with somebody who was in my midfield but isn't currently. I'm going with Elijah Sartis. I don't know how he's going to fit into an Essendon midfield with Darcy Parish to come back in, but with Levi Ashcroft now being at a sub-risk, I'm thinking of taking Ashcroft out of my team, moving Sartis into the midfield, and looking to somebody maybe like a Sid Draper from Adelaide. But then again, we don't know whether Sid Draper is going to be affected by the sub. So a lot of alarm bells going off in my head with some of these rookies now. But my idea with the flex, and I think it's an idea most people really need to consider, ruckmen in Supercoach are men that are going to score us more often than not the most points than any other player, unless a midfielder or a defensive player goes absolutely bananas. You're looking at 110 plus points most of the time from a premium ruckman who's having a great game. My idea with the flex is that flex position is going to have a premium ruckman in it by the bye rounds, whether it be a Tristan Cherry, whether it be a Lloyd Meek. There is going to be a ruckman there. There is going to be a player that's going to be scoring me over 100 points every game, and I think we can comfortably go 3 ruckmen, lock it up, to have 2 premium ruckmen on field and then 1 in the flex, all 3 of which who are going to be scoring me over 100 plus points a week. Take that to the bank, baby. I'm telling you now, that is the strategy we need to use with this flex moving forward. There are only 2 players to go, and they're not groundbreaking because I feel most of these players are going to have a decent percentage of ownership. We're going to type him in. We are going with Hugo Garcia in my M4. 18% owned. He's going to play the Mateus Philippou role before Philippou comes back. And hey, by that time, we might have earned enough cash from Garcia to flip him to a Philippou and bank some money. So that's the thought process that I'm kind of running with right now, especially given Philippou, I think, is only 3 to 5 weeks away. So if we have that 5 weeks where Garcia plays, can earn us 100k, 150k, maybe push 200k, because I think he's going to have around about an 80-point average to start the season. That'd be great for us. I mean, we can keep him for longer. I don't know, again, similar to Boxall, how his role is going to be negated when players come back in, but I'm comfortable with this position because, again, he has shown a lot during the preseason, and I'm willing to back him in. This is where things get interesting for me, because I had Tom Lynch for a very long time in this position, and I'm a little bit weary on his abilities to score big numbers for Richmond this year because he's not going to be getting the same delivery he has in the past. So, bear with me as I type his name in. We're going with Sam Powell-Pepper, 23% owned. Doesn't need to have a big average. Again, this is only a player we are selecting for cash generation. If he averages a 75, I'm happy to take those numbers in the position he has been selected for. Earn us a bit of cash. We can do some flipsies. We can have a good time. This team leaves me with only 17k in the bank, but ultimately, this is the team that I have settled on heading into round 1 action. I'm comfortable. I am happy. Lachie Neale will be my vice captain. Max Gawn will be my captain. Locking in my emergencies. Oh, we're definitely putting fucking Nankervis on the ground instead of Boyd. We're going to have to do a little bit of swapping around here. Comfortable with where we've landed, where we've situated ourselves. Looking at the team, I am very happy with the selections made. The only issue I've got is, while we put some emergencies on, we're going to go with Boxall. We're going to go with Boyd. I'm a little bit concerned again with Levi Ashcroft's role. I will do some chopping and changing in that regard. I could potentially move Hugo Garcia into my midfield, and I could bring in Tom Lynch if I wanted to go down that route. I could even look at a cheaper midfield option that has been confirmed. But you have a look at the mid prices I've picked, some of which are pods. I mean, we've got a huge pod in Lachie Ash. We've got a decent pod in Nankervis. We've got a solid enough pod with Hugo Garcia still only having, 13% owned. Callahan's numbers went up drastically after that game. I'm a little bit upset with that. Chira still has some solid enough numbers. I'm happy with the team we've got. This is a team that's going to generate a lot of money, and I feel that is where my mind is most situated this year. I've gone for players that I am backing in to have big seasons that some people might overlook. I'm just hoping I get it right this year. Last year was my best year in Supercoach I've had to date, but I think this year I'm primed. I'm ready to go. You're going to see the name Heeny Meeny Miny Mo a lot, I hope. Hey, who knows? Can I come out this week and land myself the $1,000 round 1? Probably fucking not. But that's besides the point. I'm just happy that footy is back. Supercoach team is locked in. We have less than 3 hours now to go until the first bounce of round 1. Get hyped. Get excited. Footy is back, people. Again, if you want to join my Supercoach team, link is in the description down below. If you want to get on board my tipping competition, go and check out my tipping videos I've dropped. There's links for those as well. You can join that free of charge. Have a good time. Surprises to be had at the end of the year. Let's do it. Let's load up for 2025. Let's have a huge year. But that's it from me, guys. I'm out of here. Good luck to your teams this weekend. And as always, I will catch you guys next time.